Today, we have a coaching call with Andre, not his real name, who is in his 20s and ready to take massive action. Welcome to Richer Soul, your journey to a more purposeful, intentional, amazing life. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? Let's figure that out together. At the core is the financial well-being to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want. It's about personal freedom and abundance. At the core is knowing your purpose. And today we're going to talk to Andre, who has an amazing written life plan. Although he is only in his 20s, he already has very strong financial success and a good, strong base to get him moving forward. Let's meet Andre and see how we can help him accomplish his life's goals. Today we have another coaching call, and Andre is joining us, and he's about to make some major changes in his life, and he wants to make sure that he's going to make the right decisions. Welcome to Richer Soul, Andre.
Hey, thanks, Rocky.
Thanks for being here with us. So can you share with the audience a little bit about your current situation?
Sure. I am 26 years old. I'm married, no children, living in the Midwest right now, about to move south for a career change. I guess that's a pretty brief summary. We can unpack more if you want.
Sure. Well, let's look a little bit about your financial situation. Even though you're 26, you have a paid off house. You've got considerable savings in the six figures, and you make, between you and your wife, you have a good six-figure income. So you're off to a very strong financial start. How were you able to do that so quickly?
I would say that one of the things is my wife and I, we both graduated college 5 years ago. We had some student loan debt, but it wasn't overwhelming like many people's debt load is. So that definitely helped. Another thing is I got exposed to personal finance during my senior year of college, and it just kind of took off from there. I just was learning so much. And even though I wasn't making any money at the time, I knew that, okay, I definitely need to start saving, and, shared those ideas with my wife. And so we've kind of grown a lot over the past several years with our financial journey. I will say another thing is I'm an engineer, so that definitely helps on the income side. And then having my wife work as well, us staying away from, car payments and high lifestyle things that, a lot of people do, has allowed us to save a lot. We're just starting to kind of notice it now. I think in the first 2-3 years, it felt like we weren't doing anything, but now it's kind of cool to see the progress.
And when we look at your expenses, you're probably spending about 30% of your income. The rest, there's a small portion that goes to taxes, and then a big chunk is going into savings. It's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely happened gradually. And, I think paying off the condo was a big motivation for us. And we definitely increased our expenses a little bit, after that big milestone, just to kind of reward ourselves, but we've tried to keep it in check.
And that's okay. There is a big continuum out there. The problem is most people are on the overspending side, and some people are on the very frugal side, but somewhere in between is a happy medium. Since you've got a good, strong base, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to enjoy the money you make and have. So let's take a step backwards. What was money like when you were growing up? What were the discussions in your household?
Oh, that's interesting. I've heard you ask that of other callers, and I think back and there wasn't really much talk of money at all. I honestly, it was kind of maybe a bit of a taboo topic. Money wasn't something that I really had to worry about that much as a kid. My parents were definitely solidly middle class growing up. There weren't a ton of luxuries, but we definitely didn't struggle either. As far as like the teaching aspect of or conversations, that I would overhear, there wasn't really a whole lot. I just knew, I don't know, there was focus on other things for sure, but money wasn't really one of them. I will say that one thing, I don't know why this stands out as a memory, but I was obsessed with Monopoly as a kid. We would have family game night and I would always want to play Monopoly. And it was like ended up being like a battle to the death with me and my dad, like being the final two players and me trying to take over all the properties. So maybe that was an influence, but overall, it wasn't really something that was talked about much.
Well, at least you knew how to buy houses and turn them into hotels and take over the board of property wise. And if you can do that in real life, then life is really good. You were one of the few people that I've talked to who actually has a written life plan. And when I read it, it was quite impressive. So how did you come about doing that and putting it to paper?
Yeah, that was actually kind of a random occurrence. It's something that happened several years ago. When I was in college, my wife and I went to schools that were maybe 40 minutes away from each other. And so there was a bus that I would take back and forth and I would have a little bit of time. And that's during my senior year, I discovered podcasts and I discovered Michael Hyatt's podcast. I think when he first started it, he started talking about coming up with a plan for your life and trying to live your best life. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And so I downloaded his life plan template and I filled it out. And so, yeah, I haven't been very good at keeping up with that, with his weekly review process like he talks about. But once a year, I take a day and I do go through it and I try to like revise it to see, okay, am I still going where I actually want to go or have things changed? So that's how I got introduced to the concept. And yeah, it's been really cool to see some of those things take shape. Sometimes I look at the old ones that I made and I see, oh, hey, I did, these one or two things that I wanted to do.
That's one of the things when you write it down, and even if you don't look at it again, it just kind of, it sits there. And more I hear from people that they actually start to achieve the things that are in their plan, even if they don't spend the time to go back and review it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. When you sit down and you go through the thoughts of what you want, it starts that process of putting you down a certain path. And more often than not, it's achievable.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's easy to forget though, which is, something I want to get better at. But yeah, it is pretty amazing how some things, when you write them down, it triggers something in your subconscious.
Throughout that, there's a lot of different things you talked about. You talked about your relationships. You talked about your health. You talked about your money. It's a lot of the same types of things that we talk about here at Richer Soul. So you've covered a lot of those bases in that plan, and it shows that balance that's out there. And we'll dig into it a little bit because there's a couple areas I wanted to understand a little bit better and see how you were planning to achieve those things. Right now, you have a big shift coming, right? You're making a move.
Yes. Yep.
And your wife is also going through some choices in her life and what she wants to do. And I think throughout our conversation, we've gone back and forth about her going to law school. So where are we at with that currently?
Where we're at right now is, I guess a little bit of background is maybe a year ago, my wife got the idea that she wanted to go to law school. We went through the application process and she got accepted into a lot of great places. but that kind of looking back, and we've talked about this, we realized that her and I, as far as our focus and attention with career stuff and our moving and location, we weren't as focused as maybe we should have been, because the thinking was kind of, well, if she gets into X school, I'll just focus on applying to jobs over there, or maybe I'll get a job somewhere and then she'll focus the schools to where my job is at. So we weren't really that focused. And I think as a result of that, things kind of got crazy in the past month or two. I was interviewing for this job that I've now just recently gotten, and she was in a position where she had this really amazing offer to this one particular school, but I didn't have a job in that city, and there was no law school she had applied to in the place where I was getting the job. So you can see, there's a lot of confusion. So now where we're at is we've decided, okay, we're going to take this job. We're going to move to this place. And my wife has kind of stepped back and done some reflection and thought, okay, well, maybe I don't actually want to go to law school, at least not right now. So I think one of the good things about this transition that we're anticipating is that she's going to be able to really take some time to figure out some things that she wants to do or not. I don't really know, but that's something that she's expressed to me that she's excited about, is just kind of having not as much pressure to immediately go out and get another job, or immediately go out and, okay, let's apply to law schools again, because it's a very stressful application cycle. So that's kind of where we're at now. We're in the process of getting ready to move, trying to figure all that out.
Law school is one of those decisions that you can end up spending a lot of money on. And if it isn't the right decision, then you're kind of stuck with a large bill and some regrets. So it's something that you should think through first and make sure it's what you really want to do. And that's what she'll have to go through. And that's good that she'll have some downtime to be able to think through that process. One of the things you may want to do is to have her just go talk to attorneys in that field, in that specific niche that she's looking at, and see what it's really like. And I think she's worked in law offices as well, correct?
Yeah, she has. And fortunately, she's had a really great mentor, a young attorney that she's worked with over the past couple of years, who's guided her through the process. And they've talked a lot about the way that she wants to go about it, and et cetera. So she has done a lot of those things. But yeah, I think some more reflection. I know she's also recently mentioned she's thinking about other career fields too that have sparked her interest. Because I think at the core of like who she is, she wants to help and serve other people through providing justice, and justice can be served in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
So yeah, she's thinking about that.
There's no one way to do it. There are a multitude of ways. And it's good that she's thinking that through. So one other question, and something that you guys have to think through, is children. How are they going to fit into your life going forward?
That's a good question. We've talked a lot about that. We have definitely decided in the immediate future where we don't plan to have children. We've even discussed the possibility of forgoing having children altogether, which is on the table. We have thought that if we do have children, it will probably be 5+ years from now, as far as what we're thinking. We're in our mid to late 20s, we're doing a lot of different things, and we're really enjoying our marriage and growing that relationship. We're kind of thinking it's undecided, but we're flexible. So that's what we're thinking.
All right. Now, in your life plan, there were some specific things around children, and how many?
There were. Yeah. That was previously I thought, I used to imagine I want a really big family because I came from a smaller family. And so I had some specific ideas of, I want 3 children or whatever. I think that's what I wrote down. And that's a part of the life plan that I probably should revise, because in the past, I would say 2 years, we've both had a lot of more discussions about that specific topic. And we both have come to the conclusion that, well, maybe we will, but later, as far as timing. We have thought, though, like if we do have children, it will definitely be more than one. So we're pretty sure about that.
And that's fine. I think that's one of those decisions that something about turning 30 kind of gets people to rethink. And you have a couple of years to go for that. So enjoy them and set yourself up. The one thing I will tell you is whenever you make a large decision, ask yourself, should we decide to have children? How does this decision get affected by having children?
Mm-hmm.
So that
that's a good point. Yeah.
You don't make a decision to do X, and then 3 years from now you go, we want kids. And then you're sitting here going, but I just made this major commitment to X and it doesn't fit in with kids.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of the mindset we want to go for, just to be kind of cautious, because we know that once that decision is made, we can't go back. And, similar to marriage, and it's a big deal. It changes from what I imagine. I know you have children, Rocky, and I imagine that it changes every aspect of your life. So we want to think through that very carefully.
It does. And I know throughout your life plan, you talk about your time and freedom. And one of the things that having children does is affect your time and your freedom. It can affect your money. It depends on how much you feel you have to spend on kids, but you can actually have kids relatively inexpensively. But especially when they're young, and if you're having multiple kids, you have to look at that from 0 to about the time they go to school is a major time commitment, or it's a major money commitment if you have to pay for daycare. So just things to consider as you plan out.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's one of the motivations for us wanting to become financially independent eventually, is to be able to have the freedom to say, okay, if we do have children somewhere down the line in our 30s, that we can have the freedom to say, okay, we're going to spend a lot of quality time with them. So that is one of the motivating factors behind like the financial side of our lives. Honestly, though, it's something we're still very unsure about and could change tomorrow. That's what we're thinking.
And that's fine. As long as you're thinking it through, no one's saying you have to make a decision. Just think it through. And it sounds like you're doing that. And waiting a few more years is perfectly fine as well. These are your choices. You don't want to have regrets. So think them through, what you're doing, and figure it out. What does your time commitment for work look like?
As far as my current situation?
Well, I guess it'll be your new situation.
Okay. Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I think I'll be probably working somewhat more than I do now. I work standard 40-hour weeks now. Pretty typical engineering environment is what I'm envisioning. Maybe some overtime there, but I'm not sure yet.
So you're not sure of the corporate culture where you're going?
Not entirely. I have spoken with an ex-coworker who's actually at the company I'm about to go to now, and asked him a lot of questions about it. It seems pretty similar to my current situation, except maybe a little bit more fast-paced, which I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
That's what I know. It's still kind of fuzzy right now.
That's fine. At least you reached out. You talked to somebody within the company. You have a little bit of an understanding. You're not going to get blindsided, which is always an important thing to do. When I looked at your life plan, I saw some very big goals and some very big outcomes that you were looking for. How tied or how realistic do you feel about those big outcomes?
I think it's interesting. In my life plan, you saw I have kind of divided into two sections. In one part of it, one is kind of my greater life goals, things that I really feel are in my heart that I have to do, that I'm going to enjoy doing and achieving. And then some lesser goals that would be nice. The lesser goals, I could die tomorrow and be okay with not achieving them. The greater goals, I think I really do want to do. I mean, I really do. I'm not sure how to say it. I guess I have become more and more aware since I've kind of grown up and become an adult of like my potential. And I just feel like there's so much that I can do in the world and in this life. I have to do it. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like I have a lot of potential and I don't want to waste it. I want to help a lot of people in my life, I guess.
And that's wonderful. So when I look at that, the question comes up in my mind, the work that you're doing and the work that you will be doing, does it fit that goal?
Right. Yeah. 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 That's one thing. I'm thinking you're referring to a lot of the business goals, a lot of the high financial goals that I've set.
Yes.
Okay. So that's one thing that I've struggled with, and maybe you can help shed some light and, talk this through with me. I know deep down that the most efficient route to what I'm seeking is some form of entrepreneurship. Probably, as far as what I've kind of laid out. But I've never built a business or anything like that. So it's kind of scary and nerve wracking to think about it. I've kind of just been following the path of the employee and trying to master that world as best I can. But I do want to dip my toe into entrepreneurship because I realize that the path that I'm on will do great things, but it won't achieve what I've outlined.
And that's correct. And so that's the bigger question is, are you okay with that? Or do you want to start taking steps to go in the other direction?
I want to take steps. It's hard to, I guess I'm scared of those first steps, afraid of not doing the right thing because it's not, it's entrepreneurship is not just this thing that you just take a couple courses and great, you're an entrepreneur, you're good. Like in my profession of engineering, I went to school, got a master's degree, did these certifications. Okay, all right, great. Here's your job, kind of a thing. So I think maybe learning the skills of business is a fear of mine, but that's something that I do want to overcome.
So what fear is bigger, that fear or the fear that you don't achieve these goals?
Oh man, I think the fear I don't achieve the goals is bigger because every year when I look at that life plan and I kind of look over, okay, what am I going to change? What am I going to keep the same? I see those big goals and I think to myself, should I lower that or, should I erase that? I'm tempted to just hit delete and write something different. But every time I look at those, I say to myself, no, I think I really feel like this is what I want to do. I feel like I can influence more lives for the better if I do these things. So I think that fear is greater ultimately.
Is there anything in your current work or your upcoming work that would allow you to build or work towards that?
It's a good question. The nature of my work, it's a lot of it is proprietary information. So that eliminates a lot of potential there, I think. I think what I might be doing is trying to do something maybe outside of engineering or within engineering, but in some other avenue that's not my specific niche. Because my specific niche, I feel like I don't know. I'm sure there are creative solutions that could be come up with, but it doesn't lend itself to maybe some entrepreneurial types of activities that maybe other career paths or jobs would.
There are other ways to do this, and there are different ways to go through this path. I think you probably need to sit down and make a decision of which way you're going to go, and then start in that direction. So I'm going to read number 2 off of here, which is design, invent, and produce a collection of life-changing products that make people's lives happier and truly better, not simply more productive. And that's through technology. So if you want to do that, there's essentially 2 ways to do that, right? One is to go work for a company that has that as their vision and goal. It sounds like the places you've been at don't have that as their vision and goal. The second way to do that is to do it yourself. Now, the first way of doing that is probably less fearful because someone's going to pay you while you're doing it. The opposite of that is, depending on the company, your payoffs may or may not be as big as you would like. If you do it in the right place with the right company at the right time, meaning they're a startup, and it hits and it succeeds, then you can do it through that path. The other way is to do it yourself and on your own. The good thing is, in today's world of technology, especially if you're doing something that's more software based or simple to do, you can do it as a side gig while you're continuing to do what you do. I think what you need to do is sit down and weigh out the options of each. Is there one that just off the top seems more suitable to what you're looking for?
I think what would suit me well is, I've thought about the different options a little bit. One thing that happened not too long ago in my life is one of my good friends from college. He was an engineer like me working at this other company, and he decided, all right, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and start this business. So he had thought about it. He had saved up some money. You know, he was somewhat prepared, and then he quit. And now he's at the point where he's kind of just trying different business ideas. And I have no doubt he'll succeed. He's a very hardworking and smart guy. But I look at his example and say to myself, well, I wouldn't want to do it that way. The way that I'm thinking about is maybe more so expand my skill set at the job I'm going to, because there are some really cool things with technology that I'll be doing. So I can definitely learn there. But to me, it seems like the real key is to become financially independent so that I can free up my time fully and pursue a variety of different things without the worry of feeding my family. But I know that that's not going to happen for at least a few years from now. So I definitely want to start building the skills today. So I'm thinking maybe I should try to do something on the side that doesn't compromise the core stability of my life, right? That's kind of where I'm thinking.
So let's just put some numbers to this. Based on your current expenses, you don't need to save a lot more money to live on your current expenses. And if your wife is working and making about what she's making now, you're not that far away.
You think so? Okay.
Now, it's not like you're going to be financially independent, but you will have the space to at least take the time to go do something. Now, will you have a lot of money to invest in the business? No. You've got to sit down and figure out for yourself what those numbers are. The easiest way to look at some of this is a 4% withdrawal rate is what they consider to be a somewhat safe withdrawal rate.
Right.
So if you had $500,000 saved, that would give you $20,000 a year in income. If your wife is working, that gives you enough to live. You're not going to be saving and growing, but it gives you space. You've got to figure out if that's the right number for you. You may say to yourself, that's not a big enough number for me. I need a larger number, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pen to paper to figure out what the number is and how things work. You're going to be selling your current place, correct?
Yes.
Do you know what you're going to net out from that?
I think we could net out 100.
All right.
100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked into real estate at all?
A little bit. I do have some extended family that owns a couple of properties and rents them out. So I'm a little familiar, and I have listened to real estate podcasts and, whatnot. So it is an interest. I guess another thing I'll throw in there, and I don't think this is in the life plan because this is just something that my wife and I have talked about recently, is one of our plans is in this new city that we're moving to eventually buy a house just to live in. We want to buy that house in cash. As far as like nearer term goals, that's probably going to be our main focus. But then after that, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll invest in real estate, maybe stocks, maybe a business that I start or we start. I don't know. But yeah, it's something we've thought about.
The reason I say real estate is because real estate creates cash flow. You can get relatively predictable cash flow, and you can get more cash flow than you can in the stock market. If you have a $500,000 real estate portfolio, you probably can from that get more cash flow than you could from a similar investment in the stock market. In addition, your real estate portfolio is going to be less subject to market volatility. So the stock market's at highs now. If you had $500,000 in the stock market and next year it goes down by 35%, if you're like everyone else, including me, you'll freak out because now you're at 350. And so if you need to pull off of that portfolio, you're pulling off a lower portfolio. If you have rental real estate, as long as you're able to bring in rents, you still continue to get the cash flow. The only reason I bring it up is it is one possible way to create cash flow for you so that you don't have to work. This is just the introduction of an idea. You need to sit down and think it through and see in the market you're in. And that's the other question. You're moving somewhere because of a job. It's not because you picked that place to live. If you want to build the company you want to build, where is the best place to build that company? And where is the place that you want to live your life? Those are other questions that you need to sit down and have conversations on. To that end, you may go here. It may not be worth it to buy a house where you're going because you may say in 3 or 4 years, we're out of here. And you can spend those 3 or 4 years just crushing away at putting money aside so you can get to the levels you want to get to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we definitely need to look at that, particularly if, when we get there, to really analyze, okay, what does the market look like? What do we want? How much are we willing to spend, and the timing of all that. So yeah, those are definitely good suggestions.
The other question is, and this is a question you and your wife have to sit down and say, is she willing to do whatever X work to subsidize you walking away from your income and building this business?
Yeah, I don't know if she'd be down for that idea. I think that for her as my wife, I think she would be a lot more comfortable if I did something on the side that gradually grew, and then, as the boat got close to the dock, we could step our feet over together. Kind of a more gradual transition.
That does make a lot more sense, and that was going to be the next suggestion and conversation is during this time, you start testing out ideas because as you saw with your friend, it's not easy. It's difficult. And
yeah, it's rough.
It's rough and it takes its toll. Being able to have an income and test out ideas and use your job as an opportunity to learn and get access to people to discuss the ideas and customers to discuss the conversations. It's nice to have that nice paycheck while that's going on.
Right.
So it sounds like the two of you need to have discussions, and you need to have a discussion with yourself about this bigger goal and whether or not you want to work towards it.
Yeah, I definitely do need to think about that. I've got spreadsheets that I've put together and look at and share with my wife and talk about, by 40 we could be here, 50 we could be there, 60 we could be there. And you kind of think to yourself, okay, is that really what I want? Or like, what am I willing to accept of myself? What am I willing to do to get the things that I say that I want? And do I really want them in the first place? Yeah, I definitely need to do some thinking there.
If you just go down the plan that you're on right now, you will have as long as you have work-life balance, everything else that you want, you'll have. You're living way below your means. You'll have plenty of money. You'll be able to retire at an early age and do whatever you want. You'll be able to take the yearly vacations. You'll be able to do all the other things you want if you follow the path you're currently on. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than you sit down in 20 years and say, I wish I did what I wrote down.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's the thing.
The other part of this is to sit down and ask yourself, what does this life mean? In order to have a business that generates this kind of revenue and does these types of things, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of your time to build it. And the question you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to put that much time and effort into building a business? Because that is literally what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question to sit down and have conversations with your wife. That's where the kids fall in. Trying to build this business, have kids, and do all those things, you're not going to have balance.
Yeah, definitely. I can't even imagine. During college, my wife and I were both excessively overworked, and so we have an idea of what it feels like to not have some balance. And, I can't even imagine throwing kids into the mix and more responsibilities later in life. Combining all of those, it's a recipe for burnout for sure.
Absolutely. At this point, you have a lot of decisions to make. I know you have the skill set to do it because I see you've written the plans. You're already doing the financial part of it. You're having the conversations, looking forward, making wise decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to decide, is this really your life plan?
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Rocky. Yeah, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was looking at my life plan as I was getting ready to send it to you, and I kind of thought, I really just need to maybe just rewrite this whole thing. Maybe not. Because I feel like over the years, I just keep adding and morphing, and maybe I just need to do more regular self-reflection so that I can make sure that I'm taking the right actions.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with your plan. It's an excellent plan. You just need to start doing actions towards it. Now, if you took the financial parts of your plan out of it, and when I say the financial parts, I'm talking about the business financial parts of it out,
Mm-hmm.
you could start to do these types of things without risk, and that would bring you rewards. You could still invent and produce something that changes people's lives on a smaller scale. You could become involved in your community and help people who you think need help and help them overcome the barriers and teach and do all of that at a local level.
Mm-hmm.
Your financial future is already well on its way without problems. You can donate a smaller amount of money than what you've got listed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay.
you can tone the life plan down if you choose to. Some people say you should do 10x and go achieve it, but they work very hard at doing that.
Oh yeah, I just read that book. It was crazy.
And there is nothing wrong with that. And for people who want to do that, they should go do it, but you should be clear that you're going to give up a lot to be able to achieve those things. And that's okay. You've got to figure out that balance in there.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, maybe like you were saying earlier, saying that my wife should go talk to some attorneys. Maybe I should talk to more entrepreneurs, because I'm thinking about it. And the reality is I don't really know a lot of business people, really. I only know a couple of my friends who are in the very early phases of their businesses or their startups. And it just seems like a lot of terrible things as far as work-life balance. There is no balance. Maybe I need to talk to someone or a group of people who have already done it and have maybe some guidance, or things that I can think about as I embark on my own journey.
Absolutely. And you've seen from your friends, there is not balance. There is a ton of work. Unless you do something on the side and you say, this is going to be a lifelong project and I'm going to do this a little bit at a time. And I'm okay that in 2 years from now, I haven't hit X for,
Yeah.
Instead of that, I'm going to take the slow boat and I'm still going to do it and I'm going to make change. I'm just not going to do it at this rapid rate. And that's fine too. But you just have to you should sit down and not have regrets for that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
And at the end of the day, and that's kind of where the conversation started, was with fear. What are the things you're fearful of and how can you address them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think now, as I'm thinking about it, one of the things that I'm afraid of is, maybe one of the biggest things is not having enough quality time for relationships that I care about. Because in the past, I've just been in a cycle or a zone, a season of life where I've just been working so hard and just doing so much. And it's been very incredibly productive, but it's definitely been at the expense of quality time with people that I care about. And I look back and I think, yeah, a lot of great things came from that season in my life, but should I have done it that way exactly? I think about that. I don't want to repeat past mistakes, but I also need to think about what are the goals that I am willing to sacrifice to achieve, at least in the short term, to make certain things happen.
Absolutely. And you're still young. You have the choice to do that. And you and your wife can sit down and say, you know what? We're going to go on a 5-year sprint and it's going to be brutal. But this is what we're hoping will be the outcome at the end of 5 years. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay too. But you do it going into it knowing that you're going to be running the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we definitely have to weigh all the options.
And all the people, like all the super successful people you see out there, for the most part, have spent a good chunk of time behind the scenes doing the hard work.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe it. It's easy to get misguided, reading these books or listening to people on podcasts or the internet or whatever. And it's easy to only look at, oh, look where they are now. But yeah, there's a lot of things behind the scenes for sure.
And they're the ones who succeeded. There's many along the way who failed. You don't hear from them, though.
Very true. Very true.
Looking forward, looking at your life plan, looking at your new job opportunity, are there things that you think you can do that will at least take you in the direction you want to go?
Yeah, I think there are. I think one thing that my wife and I have already talked about is we've already kind of come up with a potential future budget and kind of cash flow statement for when we do transition and what we think that's going to look like. So we're not going into it completely blind. And I think that'll help us with the transition. Another thing I think I should be doing is what I mentioned earlier is I think I just need to talk to people who have already done what I say I want to do and just gather a lot of information and see, okay, is this really the path? Or maybe I want to copy what these people did, but tweak it in one way or another for my life. I think I still need to gather more information for some of these bigger goals.
I would encourage you to share this plan with some of those people.
Okay.
Let them read it and say, this is my plan. Number one, is it realistic? Number two, what advice can you give me to make it happen?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think, thus far in life, I've had the opportunity of some like great mentors and people teaching me, but they've all been mentoring me in other areas of life, not in this one. This is one where I don't know a ton of people, or I don't think I know a lot of people who are wanting or have gone down the path that I want to go on. For example, successful inventors or people who are independent product designers, that kind of a thing. I definitely need to reach out to people. I think that's one of my strengths and weaknesses. I'm good at analyzing things and doing research in some sense, but I'm not as great at actually emailing someone, actually reaching out to people. I think even for this call, Rocky, I spent like 2 or 3 weeks with your email address on a Post-it note saying, "Oh, I'm going to email him," and I finally did. But taking that action to connect with a person is something I'm working on. So I think that could change things.
You did it. That's the important thing. You didn't just leave it sitting there. You'd be surprised. 80% plus of the people will just leave it sitting there. They won't do anything. That puts you way above. There should be local groups where you're going for entrepreneurship, business. You can probably reach out to some of those groups and talk to people. And they'd probably be more than happy to share their journey and how they got to where they were. And if you show them what you'd like to do, they can probably say, you know what, that's reasonable, it's unreasonable. The other thing you can do, I think a lot of times people come up with an idea, they think it's the best thing in the world, and they put a lot of money and effort into it, only to find out it doesn't work. What some of the smart people do is that they actually put the idea out to see if anyone's interested in it first without anything to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Very little effort goes into it. I've created this product. This is what it does. This is how it works. This is how much it'll cost. Are you interested? And that will tell you very quickly if people are interested. I think that's what Kickstarter is all about. They get out there and they say, hey, we've got this idea, this product. do you want to pre-buy it?
Right. Yeah.
And you'll know very quickly whether your idea is good or bad.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
takes a lot of the risk out of it. And that's something then that you can do on the side and try out. Because technology is constantly changing. What's hot today is gone tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think even before, that's a good idea. I think even before that, I just need to come up with more ideas. I used to think of more, and I'm reading Choose Yourself, James Altucher.
Yes.
I just started his practice of writing down the 10 ideas a day. I'm only on day 2, so
It's okay.
but
You're
but it
taking
has
action.
been helpful though. I think I'm hoping that stimulates a lot more creativity and then inspires me to further take action.
The other thing you can do is just look around and say, what problems do I see? What are people complaining about? And can I fix it?
Mm-hmm.
People buy things to solve problems. If you look and say, what problem am I having? What's a solution to it? And these days, people are changing the way they look at problems and how to bring solutions. For example, I need to get from here to there. The solution is not a new taxi company. The solution is to change the way we have the taxi business, which is what Uber did.
Yeah.
You see a problem. I want to go from here to there, and I don't want to spend a lot of money doing it. And I want to have the convenience of doing it now and not waiting half an hour and making it quick and easy. And he saw that problem and he solved it in a whole different way of shaking up the system. Airbnb is kind of the same type of thing. So there's lots of those types of things coming around, and that's all software based. So you see solutions that don't require very much investment up front to test an idea.
Okay. So I'll come up with a lot of ideas and I'll get some feedback from potential customers and other inventors and see, hey, does this have any merit? And then and only then, take further risk.
Correct. And it's okay to share ideas because most people won't do anything with them.
Okay. Yeah. I know that's one thing that's held me back too. I tend to keep things to myself and think, oh no, this is the holy grail. This is it. And, then not do anything because I haven't gotten any feedback. So yeah, I think you're right.
So what do you really want in life?
What do I really want in life? I want to love on other people, experience love from other people. I want to leverage new technologies to solve real problems. I want to be healthy. I want abundance in my finances and in my time. And yeah, I want autonomy to do what I want when I wake up in the morning. And I want the security that comes with knowing that my family will be taken care of and that I can continue finding new ways to creatively serve people.
What else?
I want to teach other people to do different things too. I thought about speaking in the past as well. It's something that family members have done in past generations. And I think I could really help a lot of people by speaking and sharing ideas and knowledge and inspiring. That really resonates with me. Every time I watch a YouTube video of a speaker or something, I think, I would love to do that. I would love to share ideas. I would love to give a TED Talk one day. I'd love to innovate and spread ideas across the world. And and get people to use technologies that I birthed, that I created.
So why do they have to use technologies you created versus you just showing them how to use what's out there?
I think there's just something, I don't know, something magical to me about somebody using, or the idea of somebody using something that I had a hand in, because I know that if I had not been there to create that thing, that it wouldn't have served that person in the way that they're using it. And like that gives me joy, that idea.
What about it gives you joy?
I don't know, it's hard to explain. I just something that my intellect, my creativity that I poured into this thing, whether it's a physical object or not, that it was used to help somebody. I'm not sure how to describe it. Something about it just really lights me up. Like I've always wanted to be like an inventor, create things. That's why I became an engineer, because I wanted to create things. And yeah, I'm not sure how to go deeper than that.
And so it's interesting. Well, so what are you doing today to become that great speaker?
Actually, I'm put together some outlines to start a podcast. So that's one thing that I've been doing. I recorded one episode the other day, and I've written an outline for another. So I think that'll help with speaking skills. Other than that, though, I can't say much as to what I've done. Maybe listening to speeches, listening to YouTube videos of speakers.
Do you know what you want to talk about?
Not really. I think I do want to talk about, I imagine myself, when I imagine myself speaking and I close my eyes and I think about it, I imagine myself presenting and sharing ideas about new technologies, about things I've created, and also about investing. That's another thing that I've become passionate about in the past few years. And talking about money and investing and wealth creation, and also inspiring people with their lives in general from a philosophical perspective, just inspiring people to improve themselves, to recognize that they have power to change their lives if they try, if they have a plan, if they're aware of other outcomes that they're not on the path to experiencing right now, that they can help themselves achieve those outcomes. I think those things, maybe talking about money, talking about investing, talking about technology, product design, talking about self-improvement and developing oneself. Those are the things that come to mind when I think about speaking.
So there's an entire industry around fintech and using technology and apps to better control your money and to use psychological behavior analysis to help bring about changes in habits.
Mm-hmm.
Your engineering it's more mechanical, right? You're not programming?
Right. Yeah. That's one skill set that I know could really help me bridge a lot of gaps as far as developing new technologies, is learning how to program. Because right now I do not have that skill set. I'm more mechanically focused.
That's fine. I was just wondering. There are plenty of opportunities for you to start doing this without risk on a small scale within the new community you go to.
Okay.
You can go out and teach people about money. There's actually, do you belong to a church?
Not officially,
Okay.
but there's one that we started attending.
And the reason I say that is Dave Ramsey has a program called Financial Peace. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yeah, we've taken it.
Okay, so you've taken it, so you know what it's like. There are people who teach that course both in and they seem to be more church based, but they don't necessarily need to be. You can go out and start teaching that within your new community, and you're immediately helping people on a financial basis who need help the most. You're getting a chance to get up and learn to speak. You're learning to connect. So you're at least building skill sets, and you're helping people today without risk. And you've already got the experience because you've been through the program, so you can speak to it directly.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. In our previous church, my wife and I had signed up to lead that exact course, but for some reason, I don't know if we just got lost in paperwork or something, but it never ended up materializing. So yeah, that's definitely something I know both my wife and I would enjoy doing that together, helping people with the basics of personal finance for sure.
And as you do it, you can come up with new ideas and maybe a new way to do it. And you don't need to program it. You can, these days, you can get apps created for not a lot of money. Small investment. And only once you find out if people would be willing to buy it.
Okay. Yeah, I never thought about it from that angle. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess just doing the speaking and doing the teaching will help generate new ideas, probably.
Absolutely. We can spend our whole lives thinking about what we're going to do, but until we get up and we go do it, nothing happens.
Yeah, very true.
And if you start doing things, things just kind of start to happen, and you never know where they take you and how they end up there. And actually, if you look at Dave Ramsey, he's long ago hit your financial goals.
Oh yeah, definitely.
With some sense of balance. Well, I don't know how balanced his life was. I think he runs around a lot, but it takes time to build an empire.
Yeah, he's got his team now, doing a lot of stuff, but I'm sure in the early days I think I remember him telling stories about selling his books door to door kind of a thing for a while.
He did out of the trunk of his car.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And he started with a radio show. He got on an hour on the show. These are things that you can do today that take no risk, that allow you to start to learn the skills that you're looking to learn anyway. You can immediately start to help people, which is what you want to do as part of your bigger picture. That's what it is, teach and help people. You can start doing that on a small scale today. And it sounds like you can do it with your wife. So you're together. It fits into your plan. And it's not a big commitment. You can stop at any time you want.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. I hadn't even thought about that. We'll definitely try to set something up when we move down there, because it's something we know we can do it, and we know there's a need for it. So why not just do it?
And I know you wanted to help people in certain minority areas, and you can go do that as well. You can target those types of churches to bring your program into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because unfortunately, financial education is not taught to anyone, and you clearly know how to do it. You're living the talk. So from that standpoint, you automatically have expertise in that area.
Sometimes I don't feel like I don't know a lot, but I heard, I don't know if it was on your show or someone else's, they said a fifth grader can teach a fourth grader how to do math, kind of a thing. You don't have to be Dave Ramsey himself or any of these other guys to help people. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is, a fifth grader can teach a fourth grader, where a 12th grader may not be able to relate. And if you take a college professor and you put them in a fifth grade class, it's going to be a miserable year for those kids. He's assuming so much that they don't understand, and he's talking at a level that they just don't get. And so if you can relate to them at their level, where they're at, and help. And that's why, so Dave Ramsey's great to get you out of debt. But beyond that, there are limitations to his program. You've got to find someone to take you to the next step. And I think he does with certain programs of his. But his financial piece is basically getting out of debt and getting your foundation laid, which you clearly know how to do.
Right.
So what other things could you possibly do to move closer to the bigger goals that you have, which is to help people?
I think you've given a lot of great suggestions. I think, I'm not sure. I think as far as on the like technology front, the inventor side of things that I want to become, I think I just need to make something. I don't know. I've got all these ideas and books and, sketchbooks and in my head. And I feel like I'm really comfortable in that zone of preparation, like research something to the very end, but actually putting my foot forward and getting something done in an arena where I have no experience, I think has been my stumbling block for like how to move forward.
So,
which is, yeah.
Do you have products that you've already designed that you'd like to create?
Not really. So I've designed prototypes for things for projects in school, things that I've created for real with the assistance of my peers and state-of-the-art lab facilities and things like that. So, but nothing recently, nothing that I've done, just me hacking something together and trying to sell it or doing anything like that. So no, not really. Just a bunch of ideas.
Have you heard of makerspaces?
I have heard of makerspaces. I even looked into one in my area. I just haven't gone.
Well, you're moving now, but go find a makerspace. And honestly, with a 3D printer and CAD, which I'm sure you know how to use CAD software, you can start to design and try things out. And don't even do it for the sake of selling it. Do it for the sake of learning the process.
Mm-hmm.
Take the things you've created and see what people say. Learn to figure out what their problems are and how you're going to create something. I think in the world today, physical products are becoming less needed. Does that make sense? In certain areas.
Oh yeah, a lot of things are being commoditized for sure.
Yes. So unless you're getting into creating some kind of robot that can do something for people or something that's removing a big task that's annoying to do at home, there's big companies already working in a lot of those areas. So then the question is, do you go be an engineer in one of those companies?
Yeah, I thought about that too. I've been thinking about that with the trends of where the world is going. And I know that my specific discipline in engineering, it's kind of the old school one. It's the one that may not be as in high demand as, for example, software computer engineering is already and will continue to be in the future. And how do I position myself to still do great things that I want to do to help people and serve them, but also expand my skill set so that I stay relevant?
And that's the one thing. So when you're an entrepreneur, you don't actually do stuff. You hire people to do the things you want them to do. You understand the process, but an entrepreneur doesn't actually do the work. He outsources all his work to somebody else to do it for him.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I think I'm still in some ways very much in that employee mindset, like, oh, I need to learn everything myself so I can do everything myself. But you're right, it doesn't work like that because every entrepreneur has only so much time and resources. And in order to actually build a business, you need to leverage the skills and talents of others. So yeah, you're definitely right. I need to learn how to do that.
So you don't need to learn all these things. You just need to come up with the idea and figure out how to get people to bring it about and bring it to life. Again, you test your idea before you invest in it to make sure that it's viable. And then that takes a lot of the risk away.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, okay, so find out if there's a demand, test ideas early, reduce risk, outsource tasks and see if it still makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Are there ideas that you currently have that you'd like to bring to fruition or no?
Only a couple, only a few that I've actually done a little bit of research on to see if they exist already. Not like a formal patent search or anything at that level, but yeah, I have a few ideas. It's just, I don't even think those few ideas could amount to nothing. I think the thing is, I just really need to get my brain working more to come up with things because right now I just kind of get up, I go to work and work is okay. And then I go home and then I'm just totally focused on my relationship with my wife, maybe a little down personal time for me reading or something. But that's pretty much my daily habit. I'm not really doing anything right now on a consistent basis to really bring out those ideas, to bring out that creativity, to spark that imagination so I can go out and create something.
You have to put time on your schedule to do that. Say, I'm going to spend, and it doesn't have to be a lot. I'll spend half an hour, 3 days a week. And during this time, this is what I'm looking to do.
Okay.
Block out the time. You're going to sit down and you're probably going to struggle. Say, I can't come up with anything at the moment. Throughout the rest of the week, you create notes to say, when I sit down, these are the top 3 things I want to think about.
Okay. Top 3 things as far as
in other
like,
words, so you may have, so let's say you're doing those ideas every day, right? So throughout the week, you're doing ideas and you say, okay, when I sit down on Friday, this idea is the one that I seem to like the best. Let me research and see if anyone's doing it. Let me come up with how is this going to help people? When you go to sit down, you're not sitting down going, what am I supposed to do? You're going to sit down and go, oh, that's right. I'm working on this idea. I'm going to do this research and I'm going to do this other step. So your steps are pre-planned ahead of time for when you're going to sit down. You don't sit down and say, what should I do? Because then you'll just spend half an hour saying, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So kind of have a systematic filtering mechanism for my thoughts and ideas so that I can follow up with the good ones.
Correct. Because on your drive to work, you'll have an idea. Maybe, somewhere in the middle of work, you'll have an idea. So creating the notes so that as the week goes on, you start to filter and have a list. So when you go to sit down, you can sit down and filter through it and have certain steps and action items you want to take. Because if you just go sit down, you'll just sit there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll do that. That's a really great idea.
So we've gone over a wide range of areas today. Which one resonates the most?
Oh man, I definitely say the business stuff because I feel like that's something that's the other areas of life I feel like are common to most people, and because of that, there's I don't know, maybe more relatable mentors and people to talk with about those things. But the business stuff, like I said before, like my circle of influence right now is like not really in that realm at all. And so to talk about those ideas with you, it really just gets my brain going. Now I have a plan, or at least a next step. Okay, let me take the next step. And it excites me to think about the possibilities in that realm of life. But I definitely still want to be cautious about how I approach that within the context of having balance with my relationships, with my health and finances and all those things. So, but yeah, I would say that area definitely stood out the most for me in our conversation.
So then your action steps for your half-hour schedule are to come up with 3 people's names and send 3 emails.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that's simple.
Yeah.
So then when you go to sit down for half an hour, you say, who are the 3 people? And by the time you get there, you'll probably have 3 names already kind of bubbling to the surface. And then you write your 3 emails and you think about what you're going to put in the emails and you send off emails to build the business connections.
Okay.
The other thing I want you to think about time-wise is to say, right now, you are not running on a treadmill. Like you're not on this hamster wheel running around like crazy. You've got a reasonable work schedule. You don't seem to have very much pulling at you from a million other directions. So I would schedule your times so that you're clear and it's good. Time for your relationships, block those out and block out times to work on business and to go through these types of ideas. This way it sounds like balance is important to you. This way you keep balance.
Okay. Yeah. I think I definitely need to do that. If I get lost in something, I'll just go on for hours working on whatever. And I know that's not healthy.
Correct. And there may be times where you have to do that. There may be times where one weekend you're just going to spend an entire weekend working on a project. Understanding then the next weekend you'll take your wife away. So that's
exactly
okay. And that balance is fine. But you've got to kind of figure it out through there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
What other questions do you have for me for today?
Well, I think we touched on a lot of good topics and things that kind of like circle in my mind throughout the day. Do you have any more advice as far as when we make this transition to this new city, other things to think about, maybe other actions to take, things that we didn't already talk about? Because right now, my wife and I we mainly focused on like the financial aspect of it and the career aspect of it. Yeah. Do you have any ideas there?
The biggest thing is don't make any long-term commitments. Don't buy a house. Get to know the area and get to know the job so that you have a better understanding of what the situation is before making a large commitment. Once you buy a house, you're somewhat locked in. You can get out of it. It's just going to cost you money. That's all.
Okay.
Beyond that, I think she's got to sit down and figure out what she wants to do with her life, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's probably your second big thing there. Are you looking for other specifics in that area or?
I'm not really sure. I've moved a lot as a kid, but I haven't moved from any place on my own for several years. And I feel like, I have a fundamentally different life now. And maybe I just have some fear of uncertainty as to like how to do it because it's not something that happens every day.
Honestly, it's a lot of mechanical stuff. You show up, you find a decent place to live, you find a doctor, you get your driver's license moved.
Yeah.
Just don't go out and spend a ton of money buying all kinds of stuff because you moved. That's what people do. They move and they go, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. That's not necessarily so. Move, settle, figure things out, take care of all the mundane little stuff that you normally do now. So right now, you know where the supermarket is, you know where this is, you know where that is. Spend time getting to know where all the routine things you need to do are. Get to know your area, and then start figuring out, how can I build a network in this town? Who can I meet?
Okay, yeah.
Both professionally and personally within this community? What can I get involved with volunteer-wise? What are the different groups that are here? How do I, usually most big cities have young professional groups. There's probably an engineering group, and there's probably some sort of different church or religious groups. Go get involved, or just go visit them all. You don't even have to commit to anyone. Just find out what they all are and start to build your network in that community.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Because that's something, as you were describing it, I realized, like, I haven't really done that great of a job of that in our current city, and we lived there for 5 years, and, I'm thinking about everybody in our network right now, and it's mainly like work people or people that are neighbors that became friends or something like that. Not so much reaching beyond those spheres of those social circles.
And so
yeah.
In both of those situations, you let the situation pick your friends. You weren't intentional and deliberate in going out and finding the kind of people you want to be with. So go find the young people who are doing inspiring things within those communities.
Okay, yeah, be more active with the choosing of the people.
Yes.
Yeah,
be
okay.
Intentional.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think, like, in college, I was really fortunate to have a lot of like-minded people around me and really inspiring, great friends. And I think maybe it's just like the type of college that I went to or something like that. But that network has definitely been the strongest by far as 5 years out. And I've noticed that. I've noticed the people here in the city I'm at that I've connected with, like, yeah, it's okay, but no real strong connections or friendships similar in depth or even breadth.
You have to be intentional at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
And look for people who are going places and that have the same values you do, and go connect with them.
Yeah.
The other thing you can look at is Toastmasters. Are you familiar with Toastmasters?
Yeah. Yet another group that I've looked up. I've even looked up the chapter and haven't gone yet.
Well, you said you wanted to learn to speak. It's a perfect place to learn to speak, and it's a perfect place to meet people who are interested in speaking and doing things. You get a double for that one. You get to meet people and you learn a skill.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are probably the biggest things at this point. And then if you're going to start your blog or your podcast, it's just learning skills, getting out. All these things are very low risk types of things that you just can start to talk to people and see what happens, and start to do things and see what resonates. And then there's tons of groups for all of those different types of things. So there's podcast groups online. There's financial groups online. There's a whole bunch of those types of things.
Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely do more active seeking people out in all of those areas and becoming more engaged in those communities. Yeah, that would definitely help me, because I feel like a lot of times I'm kind of in this isolation where my wife and I just talk about a lot of different things, and then it's kind of just us. But there's power in numbers for sure.
Absolutely. You just have to lean out and start doing it. That's the biggest thing. Take action.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other questions for this evening?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much. It's been very helpful to talk this through with you. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And the other thing I would tell you, last thing, is build your board of directors. So find people who you can go to when you have ideas, concerns, that will appropriately tell you the truth and help you take the right steps. So you want people at kind of all different positions so that as you have ideas, you can share the idea and get feedback from your board of directors that help you and guide you forward. So you may need people quite a bit ahead of you, and then find an accountability partner so that you get done what you want to get done.
Okay. Yeah, that's another great idea. I feel like I have a couple of my peers are really great people that I know I'll be lifelong friends and peers with, maybe even partners one day. But I think finding the people ahead of me is something that I haven't done and should do.
Absolutely. And then at some point when you have where you're going, and if you need good help, then you find a specialized coach in that area to kind of walk you through that race quick and fast and help you and guide you so that you don't have to make mistakes and you can do it at a much faster pace. So you're not up every night trying to learn. You've got an expert right by your side who's saying, here's what you need to do. Here's the path. Here's your course.
Okay.
Financially, you're set. You've got a new job. You've got to settle in and see how that goes. You've got plenty of opportunities to go out into your community and start doing things immediately. You're looking to start the podcast, which gives you a voice and a chance to get out and try some different things. You've got to sit down with your wife, go back over your life plan and kind of really decide, is this truly what I want to do? And what does that mean to all the rest of the parts of my life? Does it fit in or doesn't it fit in? Or how can I make it fit in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then once you do all of that, let me know how it's going.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely be listening to this a couple more times after it's done recording, and so that I can act on the ideas you presented. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for joining us today. For Andre, this coaching session is just one step along a long journey. He has a big purpose in place, but needs to think through the consequences of his choices and start taking massive action. What about you? What action can you take to achieve your goals? Hey, can you do me a favor? I would love to hear from you about future topics you would like me to cover. Please email me. It's rocky@richersoul.com. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the week.